Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome in to Judd's Hockey Show. It's Judd Zulgad, it's Declan Goff, and those of you watching on YouTube are about to see Wild General Manager Bill Guerin, kind enough to come back. What's up, Billy? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Judd. How you guys doing? Hey, Declan.
Hey, Billy. How's it going?
Good. I love it. It's a good Irish name.
Thank you. Thank you.
Judd Zulgad is not, by the way.
Yeah, Judd's not Irish.
Not,
Russian.
It's a cool name, too.
It's
Very
Russian.
cool.
And we don't want to talk about Russia right now. I'm sure you've had enough. So
I've got enough.
We'll ignore that completely. So your club's got a couple of exhibition games left. Opens the season next week against the Rangers at home. And Billy, I want to start you off here. What's been your assessment of camp, and what are your expectations? Coming off a playoff disappointment, but a really good season last year. What are your expectations now with this current collection that you're going to start with next week?
First of all, I've been very happy with camp. You know what? Everybody came in great shape as they all do now, but you usually have one or two guys that are amiss, and we didn't have any. The veterans on our team continue to lead the way. We have a great environment, a great culture. They make everybody feel part of the team right away, no matter if you're a first-year junior kid, college kid, whatever it is, new NHL guy. Mm-hmm. We've got a good thing going here, and I credit our veteran guys for that. They're doing what they have to do to get ready. I really like Tyson Joe's camp. The guys that have something to prove: Tyson, Sam Steele, Marco Rossi, Calen Addison. Even guys like Mason Shaw, Mitchell Chafee, Brandon Baddock. All these guys have really stepped up. Nick Patan, and had great camps, and they're making. And I know I left a few guys out. Dakota Mermis is another one. Schuster's another one. But they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's making my decisions difficult.
Billy, on those difficult decisions and just guys that have shown flashes here and there and have had good camps in the minor leagues, I'm curious on your thoughts on Calen Addison's development so far. So you were familiar with him going back to Pittsburgh. He obviously was acquired here in the Zucker trade a few years back now. He's played a handful of AHL games. Just from your, GM view and a former player's view, what is maybe the last thing he needs to prove to be a regular NHL player with the Minnesota Wild? Well,
I personally think he's ready. He's ready to be a full-time NHL player. Now it's about consistency. You can't be an NHL player unless you're consistently good. And that's probably hey, look, we're always working on our game. We can always get better. But the consistency for a young player is the hardest thing. And that's definitely probably the biggest thing I'll be looking for.
Special teams wise, I know that there has been a focus in camp on both power play, penalty kill. I want to start with penalty kill, Billy, because I've watched a couple of the games so far, and I got to tell you, I love the aggressive PK. I love taking it to two teams, pressuring the puck. And I don't know, personnel-wise, if there's going to be a ton of changes there, but I think going in with almost an offensive first focus makes a huge difference because it keeps teams, basically they can't sit back or you don't sit back. The attacking style of the penalty kill to me is going to be an exceptional step forward to at least potentially improving on the PK.
Do you want to coach?
He would love to.
I've loved it since Billy. I'm going to tell you right now, the LA Kings in the 80s played this and I loved it. Pressure the points, especially, here's my thing. I've never gotten this. Hold on a second.
Pressure the points. I love it.
I've never gotten this. When and I get this, you drop a forward to the point, right? Why would you not then, if you're killing the penalty, pressure that guy because he's not a defenseman, and if he is stripped of the puck, he's going to panic sometimes. That's the one that I really like.
Judd, I don't want to burst your bubble. I really don't. Nothing screams 80s like pressure the points.
I'm an 80s guy.
I know, so am I.
I'm an 80s guy. We're about the same age. Don't
more,
sell me out, brother.
I wasn't a penalty killer, but it's a little more technical than that. It's a little more, the game has advanced quite a bit. But I've been very happy with the special teams in the preseason. We all know it's a different ball game when we get to the regular season, but an aggressive style is, hey, look, we play an aggressive style 5-on-5 power play. Why wouldn't we do it penalty kill wise? And I think the biggest thing for me is on any special teams, on any part of the game really, is the ability to adjust, the ability to make changes as we go. And you know what? I really believe in our coaching staff, and I think they've really worked hard in the off season to come up with a bunch of different things that are going to help us do that on a night in, night out basis.
Bill, I feel like there was also a kind of aura around the Wild when you lost Fiala and you had an early exit again in the playoffs this year that, how are they going to replicate their success again? And just looking at a lot of what analytics are putting out and a lot of point projections, they still have the Minnesota Wild as the second best team in the Central, a team that should be well over 100 points again. I guess when you see those analytic models and when you even talk to your own analytic people on staff, it just seems like they're still bullish on this club still being one of the best teams in the Western Conference this season.
I mean, hey, that's their analytical breakdown of our team. Then that's great. We have to play the games, so we'll find out. But I'm a big believer in this team, and I know we've lost some people to other teams along the way, but that doesn't matter to me. That's an opportunity for somebody else. It was never a one-man show. Hey, you know what? You move on. Like, you think the Colorado Avalanche are going to stop because they lost Nazem Kadri? Like, this happens every year. It's not that big a deal. Let's just move on and play hockey. So, those are nice things to be pointed out. But like I always say, you got to play the games.
Boldy looks bigger and better just from what I've seen. Do you see a guy that put on some positive pounds? Because he looks like he's transitioning even more so into that, power forward like type of look. And I love his style of play.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, everybody wants to play with a guy like Matt because he creates room, he makes plays, he puts the puck in the right places. It's not just about weight. That's again, Judd, we're going back to the 80s. Come on. It's about strength in the right places.
Sure.
It's about, it is about being a little heavier, but having your mass in the right place for protection, with physical play. Matt holds onto the puck a lot, so he needs that built-in armor. But he's stronger. And there is a real thing called old man strength. And you really do get stronger as you get older.
Tell me about it, huh?
Yeah. And and even though Matt's in the NHL, he's still a young man and he's still developing, physically. And a lot of these guys are. So there's still a lot of room for improvement, but he has definitely obviously had a good summer.
Billy, curious on the goaltending split here. So Marc-Andre, Fleury now coming back to the Wild. You bring in Gustavsson to back him up. Cam Talbot's out as well. Is the thought process here, I know Marc-Andre said he likes to play a lot. Is the thought process here to have a maybe 60-40 split? Like, what is kind of your thought process of how you'd like these goaltending tandems be deployed throughout the regular season?
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to just, get stuck on a number or percentage or whatever. It's really more, we just have to look at the schedule well in advance and really manage the goalie's work rest ratio. I mean, Flowers a little bit older, but he's in fantastic shape. He plays better when he's playing a lot, but we also have to make sure that Gus is getting the time that he needs. He hasn't played a ton in the league. We need to get him in games. We need to get him kind of connecting with our team and our defensemen and getting on the same page. But I've been very happy with both of them through, this far in training camp.
So, Bill, what's a fair total of games to ask Flower to play, do you think? Like, what's a ballpark of what you think is probably fair at his age?
Yeah, I'd probably say 55, right around there. But I like, again, don't hold me to a number. I don't know what it's gonna be. It's I'm just answering your question, man.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
No,
Okay.
it's really you know what, it could be 50, could be 55. I don't know, could be 57. I
Yeah.
think the most important thing is that you look at where he's going to carry a heavy workload and where he's going to get all his rest.
Mm-hmm. Marco Rossi, the topic du jour. I see where we are recording this on Thursday before the Blackhawks preseason game. I saw a line combination for tonight because Hartman is not playing, that he's going to be centering the first line. Does he have the club made? And if so, what are right now, currently, not in 3 months, not in 2 months, the expectations there that would be considered fair for him?
No, it doesn't have the club made. This is just a good opportunity for him. Hartsy's not playing tonight, and I think Marco's done a very good job of playing the role that he's been in with, Dewey and Dewey. And, I think tonight's just a good, like I said, a good opportunity for him. So, let's let him enjoy this, try to make some plays, and, hey, you know what, let's see how it goes. But, expectations, again, kind of like Addy, Marco's doing all the right things. He's at a very good camp, doing all the right things. Can you do it consistently? Can you do it 8 out of 10 games? Can you do it? Then can you do it 9 out of 10? Then can you put a stretch of 20 good games together? Like, these are all things that, and this is probably the toughest thing for a young player, is to really gain that consistency. So that's something that we'll really watch for with him too.
Billy, I saw a top 20 list come out from NHL Network, the best players right now going into this season. And I think Kirill Kaprizov checked in at number 14. He's now entering year 3 in the NHL. He's obviously solidified himself as one of the better forwards in the NHL. But do you think entering year 3 and by the end of this season, Kirill Kaprizov is going to be one of the top 10 players in the NHL? And do you already think he is one of those top 10 players in the NHL?
Yeah, I already think he is. I mean, he's definitely up there. I mean, it's all relative, really, when you're talking about this. But he's one of the most dangerous goal scorers out there. 100-something points last year, and only his second year. I mean, he really can do it all. Like, he's a very, very good player, and I think even from by last year's standards, there's more.
There has been, I think, in the last month or so, speculation that you might not be done yet and might be trying to find one more potential forward who can score some goals. Are you still examining your options there? And do you think there's a decent chance that there's an addition before opening night, or is that probably a long shot?
No, I think it's a real long shot. You know what, to be honest with you, I've heard that, and yeah, I mean, everybody wants to add scoring. There's always a price to get it. But to be quite honest with you, with the camps that Tyson Jost is having, and Sam Steele, Marco, Patan, maybe we have it, and maybe we can hold on and stay flexible and keep our cap space. That would be nice too. The one thing, and I've always said, we're not going to rush in to do something just to do it. We're going to make a calculated move, and being patient is always better than rushing into it.
Bill, how much do you think this team learned from last spring? Like, because you have this, it feels like that you have a team that you like a lot. So like the room's in good shape. It feels like it came together. But just as far as that, next gear for playoffs, how much do you think that the veterans, especially, I guess, as well, took away from that disappointing experience and can translate now to potential success this season?
Well, I think they took away a lot. And you know what? It takes a lot more than just being really pissed off. Like, that doesn't – yeah, we're all pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
We're all mad. Like, that's not enough, though. You really have to learn. You have to dive into the problem and figure out what happened as a team and as an individual. You know what? Where do we have to get better? Where can we get better? And that only comes with experience. This is not this is not your Minnesota Wild team from 4 and 5 years ago. This is not the same cast of characters that have always been around.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of get a little pissed off because this is really the first time that this group of guys has been able to do what they can do. And you know what? It's been pretty good the last 2 years. There are a lot of teams that have been out in the first round. It just happens. But the most important thing is that we learn and we get better for it.
What do you particularly like about this collection, Bill? I mean, most of them now for the last few years has mostly remained the same. Some, guys come and go a little bit here and there, but what is it about maybe this group from last season and now carrying over to this season that really kind of stands out to you, that it has a different vibe and a different feel to it?
Well, we've kind of gotten to the point. It doesn't matter about the changes. Like, guys are going to come and guys are going to go. The culture remains the same, and the message is going to be the same: is that we're here to win, and the players are driving that. And you know what? These guys care. They really do, and they don't just want to win. They're doing what they have to do in order to win.
Last thing off the playoff loss, Billy. What do you think that Dean and his staff learned too? Because it did seem like, and it's been, pointed out a few times, that there could have probably been some earlier adjustments in certain cases that there weren't. And for him, I'm sure, just like for a bunch of the players coaching in the playoffs, it was somewhat of a learning experience. What do you think the staff took away from that series?
Well, it's just like the players. You know what? Analyze what could have, what could have gone better. What could we have done better? What could we have done differently? And that goes for me too. What could I have done differently? Trade wise, or suggest lineups, or this or that. I mean, I take responsibility as well. This isn't just on just the players. It's on the coaches and it's on me too. And we all have to get better. We all have to learn. But I do think that everybody has really made a conscious effort to kind of figure that out. And my message to the guys this year is we need to take a step. And that requires more commitment, more dedication, more sacrifice, and more focus. And you know what? Winning hurts. And we've got to go. Sometimes you have to go through a little pain to get there. You can ask, what? Don't forget. Just look back and look at the Tampa Bay Lightning. They haven't won every year for 10 years.
Right.
They got swept by Columbus. They've missed the playoffs. They got into the conference finals, and then they missed the playoffs again. Like, it's not all perfect everywhere. So you got to remember that.
Playoffs are tough too. I mean,
hard.
That's the thing. It's
hard.
not.
There are good teams out there.
Exactly. Last thing for you, sir. I just want you to know my hockey fandom, my roots are very much where you said 80s, early 90s. This is a Mike Modano card. So I just want you to know, when I talk about pressuring the puck, it comes from a place of love for the 21 team National Hockey League. And by the way, if I could go back, I would right now. 21 teams, fantastic.
You'd go back to man-on-man coverage in the D zone, wood sticks.
Espo for you, okay?
And no curve. That's a great card.
I got a little Espo for you as well. All right? I mean, this is where it's at. The golden era.
I want to go back to steel blades, too.
The gold. You know what? I just missed them. I just missed steel blades. Damn it. All right, Bill. Thank you. See you at the rink.
Guys.
Appreciate it. Great
Thanks,
stuff.
Billy. Appreciate it.
I just wanted to show them. I wanted to show them.
I know.
Look, a little Bill Goldsworthy for you. Here.
I could have just hopped off the mic and you two could have talked about 80s hockey.
Oh, we're
for
at the same age.
Minutes.
Yeah. I love how he put his head down at one point. Okay, so last thing he said I thought was really intriguing, Dex, if we can just react to him for a second here. I love the fact that, and he's right, this team needs to take a step. Now, are they going to be as successful points-wise as they were last year, 113? I don't think so. Number one, I don't care. I do think that they are a playoff team now. And I love the fact that he talked about what we talked about in the playoffs last year, which is it's tough. It's really tough. While it's going on, it's not fun. Like, it's tough. Then if you win, it's great. But I think that there is I think he's got the room and the team and the roster where he wants it, or it's certainly very close now, which he didn't have. I do think that there were a lot of people, including the coach, who probably can, and seems like they did, hopefully, take a lot from the loss in 5 games. That's the key to me.
Couple things that stood out from our conversation there. Number one, yes, the learning. What did you learn there? Not just, bad luck. We just got beat by a hot goaltender. If we took those shot attempts and did it again, I bet we win. There's no excuse making, which I love that there was accountability held there from Bill and from obviously the coaching staff, and obviously without us talking to Dean or knowing what's happening on the coaching side. I like that Bill basically said, like, is there things I'm not doing right? Are there things that I'm not communicating to the staff on down? I think Billy probably had more of a hands-off approach to let the coaches coach, as Lou Nanny always loves to say. But I also know he probably thinks I probably could have stepped in here and there and provided this type of input. And that's all about learning on it. The second part, which is I think some Wild fans might get hung up on and sometimes roll their eyes at, what he just said, and I even wrote it down verbatim, this is not your same Wild team from 4 or 5 years ago. That's basically a shot at the former group that everyone loved to talk about, and we're so sad to see them go. Bill Guerin knows that this team is better without them, and that is why it was so important and why it was worth the risk of trading those players, buying out those players, doing all those necessary steps, because the Wild would be better for it. And you can hear it in his voice. I get pissed off talking about this all the time, but it's because people keep asking and probably pontificating on the fact of, but what if this person was here? Remember how it was when it wasn't great.
Now,
it felt woefully short.
I think what he does not like, and I don't blame him, but it's natural of fans, so I don't blame them. I think what ticks him off the most is this typical Wild, they got into the playoffs and they lost again. And he's like, no, this is a different team. But I get both sides here. I get he's right. A lot of guys, the majority of guys are gone, but fans, much like with the Twins, right? Like 18 consecutive playoff defeats goes back to what? 2004. 2004 has nothing to do with now, but I also get fans are tired of this. So I get it cuts both ways, but I do think that he is, I love where he's coming from and saying, basically, I think, I blew that locker room up for a reason, and we're going to get to where we're going. Now, time will tell on that. We have no idea. But yeah, I love the mentality. And again, Dex, I think the most important thing is, if nothing else, what did you learn? Like if that blew, because it felt like the previous group never learned anything. In fact, they regressed, didn't they? If this group learned, if Dean learned, if Boldy learned, Kaprizov, the whole group, then you know what? Then it was a painful first round exit, but you benefited from it. And that's my problem in sports. Too often, it feels like teams are like, no, this is how we do things, and we're going to continue. Mm-hmm. The smart teams are like, oh, hell no. Oh, no, we saw this. And next time around, we're going to make sure that we give ourselves the chance for it to be different.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what losing and that's what learning from it goes. And I get Bill's frustration of same old Wild. I mean, it's different, but it's similar, to the end of the Twins runs of division titles from, 10 years ago where they got in the playoffs 6 times and they had absolutely nothing to show for it. Now, at least the Wild can figure out a way to win a damn playoff game here and there, and at least make the series interesting. Yeah. But it's in that same nebulum of great regular season team falls woefully short in the postseason, and it's up to them to fix it. And and that's why I was curious on his thoughts just on the analytic approach, because just about every analytic model that I see has the Wild as a 100+ point team in second place in the Central, and I feel like when they let go of Fiala and they basically stood pat this offseason, I think my expectations from seeing those projections was it was going to say about a 90 to 95 point team that's probably a wild card team in. And that's not what these models are saying. These models are saying, no, this team won't just be a wild card team. They have a threat to be right behind Colorado in the Central.
So I've seen the same thing. I guess I have different thoughts about it. The first thing comes down to one thing to me, goaltending.
Yeah.
It's a wild card. And if Fleury can play 55 games, 56 games, that means he's playing pretty damn well, right? That's fine. That's fantastic. Gustavsson, we don't know. We just don't know. And so goaltending to me is a huge question mark. Because if Fleury regresses, and last year is weird because he played so much of the year with a terrible Blackhawks team that I don't feel it's fair to hold that against him. So now he's with a good team. Gustavsson, I have no idea. I have no clue. I saw him play in a part of an exhibition game. He played really well, but that is, again, a preseason game. So goaltending is my question. I think the blue line's pretty damn strong. How did it sit with you that with the season starting next week, he didn't guarantee Marco Rossi a roster spot yet?
Well,
I'm curious what you thought of that.
I would like for him to make this roster. And at the end of the day, I do tend to side with more of the management and more of a transparent approach like that from Guerin, who basically just says, hey, he has the talent. I've seen it, but can you string together all these little things that go right over our heads? That you see a guy, taking up a roster spot, and you just think, well, that player's clearly worse than this hot young prospect that's coming up. But there's a reason he's there over the other guy for now. Yeah. I think Marco Rossi probably makes this roster. If he doesn't and plays 20 games in the AHL to start the season, I'm also not going to be completely crippled by that fact. I don't think most fans would be completely shocked by that either. I'm curious when he gets here, how long does he stay here? And where does he fit into this roster? Because with Hartman getting the night off and Rossi getting this is clearly a Rossi chance to prove himself.
Yeah.
Like this game, how he plays in the Thursday night exhibition, because we're recording this on a Thursday afternoon, it's probably going to tell his fate. Like this is a pretty big prove-it game and the last impression that he can make, in my opinion, that will solidify his chances of making this roster.
I think my feeling is this, especially with because my expectations are that this is a playoff team, but I don't think that this is a Stanley Cup team. At least not to start the season. My Rossi feeling is what you said, which is if he makes the team, I want him to stay. So what I don't want is for him to make the team and be a bubble guy. And then he struggles and they're like, whoa, this isn't working. And then you start that bouncing up and down, right? This is not a kid I want that with. So I do think that there is, I do think being a first round pick, that there is pressure on him to succeed for sure. Ideally, I would like to see him stick and just stick through the entire year and years thereafter. But I guess if they have any doubt about it, I also don't want him to start because I personally hate, especially for a kid like this, the roller coaster, right? Now he's back. Okay, this is going to solve it. Now he's back to Iowa. So I want that. I think Guerin is telling the complete and utter truth on this, and it's your guy. So Tyson Jost. You talked pretty highly about him, if I recall correctly, when they made the trade sending Sturm to Colorado last year, because he was a guy who hadn't gotten any chance. And you didn't know, and he probably left college a year early at least, so he pressured himself a little bit as well. But I think Jost is a guy that they have been impressed by, and I wonder if he isn't going to end up being a top 6 guy consistently by December.
Yeah, they're going to give him a shot, and they should. That's what I wanted to see. I mean, he clearly can play fourth line. That's fine. You can find guys to play fourth line. But he's a top 10 overall pick from 4 or 5 years ago. This isn't some slappy who didn't reach his ceiling of a top 6 player, got kicked out to the bottom 4, and then just became, some fourth line role player. This is a dude that really hasn't had the opportunity to even play in the top 6 because he was in such a logjam in Colorado. And good, I don't fault Colorado for not putting Tyson Jost in the top 6. Like, why would they, right? They had insane center depth and they didn't need him up there. But I'd rather them figure out if they have it with Tyson Jost over taking a waiver claim over someone who's going to make $4 to $5 million and take up the vast majority of that salary cap space, because it also just makes fiscal sense to ride out with Tyson Jost. When you're building out and you're in a salary cap league like this, it is so important to have the right salary cap spots built around certain positions. They aren't paying a lot in goaltending. Yes, those buyouts are really hurting them, so that's just a loss there. But then how do you build out the rest of your roster, and how do you get the maximizing of it from a salary cap side? And I do think there is something to Tyson Jost's game. I'm curious to watch him play this year.
Last thought. on the cap hits, okay? Parise and Suter cap hits, which we have talked about 1,000 times on JHS. So thinking through this out loud, all right? Yes, it hurts. I get it. You are basically freezing up cash that could be used on free agents and extensions and blah, blah, blah. But that being said, is it the worst thing? Because I will say this, and we've learned this in this town a few times now. Going out and having cap space and or just salary to spend and getting free agents here doesn't work. Like, it's not guaranteed. It can help, but it's not guaranteed to work, right? So I wonder in some ways if this is actually as the not long-term play, but just the next few years play. If this might be the best thing because of this. Look at what they're building up system-wise now. Like, they have potentially a really good and a ton of depth blue line, right? The drafts certainly have looked far different than they did when Chuck Fletcher was peddling picks. So I'm not saying that any GM wants to be cap-strapped like Bill Guerin is, but I do, I think ideally, Dex, you're going to build your team. And then if you can supplement with a guy, that's fantastic. But, the notion that you are going to go get, and we learned this, Parise and Suter, and now there's a Stanley Cup parade down 94, is probably just folly. It's probably folly. Mm-hmm. So I do wonder in some ways if this forces the Wild into, because, at the end of Fletcher's run, the farm system was barren. Iowa was terrible. It was a bunch of just washed up slappies. So I'm walking the fine line here of trying to find the positive in building up a system, because if you don't have that, I don't think you're going to win in a cap league.
The dilemma you face is you can't just purge your draft prospects and purge and sell off your prospects for pennies on the dollar, but you do have to walk the line of having depth and then also realizing when the time is to strike. Yes. What the Wild did, I thought, brilliantly last year was they made additions at the trade deadline. It didn't cost any top prospect. It didn't cost really any top pick. They figured out the way to mortgage some of their future without hurting any of it either. And that's a line that you have to walk. It's great. Guerin went on a tangent there in his first answer talking about all the great depth they have, and that's fantastic. And the Wild have one of the best prospect pools in the entire NHL going into this season. But as I've probably said 1,000 times, those top 10 prospects that are on the Wild's list or anyone's list right now, odds are one of those guys and maybe two hits their true ceiling. Mm-hmm. Half of them will flame out and not be anything, and 3 of them will be decent NHL players that play, couple hundred games but aren't game-changing, game-breaking players.
Right.
So that's why I've never really fallen in love with prospect hoarding and just going down a wormhole of baseball or hockey prospects. I just don't think it's worth your time. And also, it's hard. You can look at every hockey reference, baseballreference.com, and find stats. I hate to be classic old man here. Unless you're really watching these prospects every day and you're living in these ho-dunk towns watching them, you don't know anything about them. You don't.
Now, so I agree completely, but here's the point that I think becomes important, okay? 10 guys. 5 flame out, never make it. 2 hit their ceiling, and they are contributors, and they're good. Probably not superstars,
but
maybe
good.
1, but good.
Yeah.
3 contribute as I don't know, a third defensive pairing,
right.
Bottom 6 forwards, all right? Now, here's where the game becomes, to me, the most intriguing. Of the 5 guys who flame out, can you see it coming quick enough to trade them for assets before they get exposed? Because there's always a dummy.
Yep.
I mean, there's always a team, I don't know, let's just say, there's always a team that's going to take an injured pitcher.
Right.
Because they're the dummy.
Yeah.
So I agree with your point wholeheartedly, but I also think that there's a game to be played here from a negotiation standpoint. Because if I can unload, let's say 5 guys bust, and let's say I can unload 2 to 3 for a decent return, and 2 guys just bust completely, so they get me nothing. I just think that that's the game. But to go back to what Fletcher had here, he just had a bunch of old guys in the American Hockey League who stunk.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, there's no trades to be made then. Like,
And
there's no leverage.
It's bailing when you think it's worth it. So like when the Wild traded Matt Hackett, remember that goaltending I believe they did that in the Pominville
Yes, they
trade.
did to Buffalo. You're right.
And it was like, oh, you're going to trade a can't miss goaltending prospect who has been great in AHL and even came up with the Wild and played pretty well in like a dozen games. Matt Hackett didn't turn in anything, did he? And the Wild got a pretty damn good player in Jason Pominville out of it. So yes, it's understanding the risk that this prospect might become something for them, but also to your equation, it's bailing before you know that this guy isn't going to be anything. And that takes smarts and risk
Yes.
greater beyond even you and I who pretend that we love to know things. And I love that Guerin asked you if you wanted to be a coach. I love,
And then he insulted my love of
did.
80s hockey.
Yes, he did. I love it.
Showed
though.
him some of my sticks I got from the. I mean, come on, Billy. Come on, Billy G. All right, we're done. Dex, take us home, and we will be back, obviously, again, probably early next week. If nothing else, than to just do a season preview.
About to say, took the words out of my mouth. I'm pretty sure a team little season preview for the Wild because they do open the regular season 1 week from today.
Gilbert Perreault.
Look at this. Look at Judd and his cards.
Phil Esposito. Let's see what else we got here. Dino Ciccarelli.
Okay.
80s, baby.
Before
80s.
Judd literally takes up the next half hour
Johnny
showing you his
Beaupre.
cards and God knows what else. Hit
Bill
the subscribe
Guerin.
button. Daily Minnesota Sports Entertainment. This is Judd's Hockey Show. Rate, subscribe. We're on Apple, Spotify, scorenorth.com. And, of course, Pass, Shoot, Score.